It's taken 2 long weeks to get here, but the final eliminations are finally underway at the Spring Nationals in Top Fuel Eliminator. Our first pair of cars finds Jim Bernard from Portland, Oregon, driving the North Wind. Bernard, somewhat of a surprise qualifier. He normally does not travel out of the Northwest that much, but here he is racing against David Pace, driver for the Carroll brothers from Dallas, Texas. If you followed drag racing any period of time, you know the name the Carroll brothers. They date back some 20 years in this sport, starting and continuing from their Dallas, Texas home base. Pace, the latest in a series of fine drivers for the Carroll brothers. He's ready to go. His burnouts and preparations are over. So is Bernard, and they're approaching the starting line. Leaving the line together, some smoke off of Jim Bernard's tires. It's a close race at this point, and at the finish line, Jim Bernard wins it. But wait, David Pace is recorded as the winner by the electronic win judge. Let's go back and watch again and see if we can find exactly what happened. They leave the starting line side by side. You see a little smoke off of Bernard's car in the far lane. He begins to move from the straight track. Now it appears they're side by side. And at the finish line, it appears that Bernard gets there first, but yet the win judge indicates that David Pace won the race. We'll try to check on this as racing continues and get back with a story on just what happened on this race between Jim Bernard and David Pace. Our next pair at the starting line already fired. Their burnouts are finished, and this is the world champion, Shirley Muldowney. She won it last season, the only person ever to win 2 Top Fuel world titles. She's racing against Marvin Graham, now living in California, a former Spring Nationals, a former national champion. Graham and partner Mark Danikas have been very successful this season, as has Shirley Muldowney. She just won the last major event, the Cajun Nationals down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Graham against Muldowney here at the Spring Nationals at National Trail Raceway. The track appears to be in good shape, and it is Shirley Muldowney out with the lead. And at the finish line, a quick time, Shirley Muldowney, 5.92 seconds. Her speed over 243 miles an hour and no parachute, but there it finally comes out for Marvin Graham. So he brings his car to a bouncing halt as Shirley rolls her way around into the turnoff area. Shirley winning the first round match against Marvin Graham. The crew watching to make sure everything is okay. Then heading down track, her son John Muldowney and crew chief Ron Tobler going down to pick up Shirley, who's with Steve Evans.
Well, you had a beautiful driving job. You left first. Your impressions of the racetrack now. It was kind of an unknown quantity going up.
Well, yesterday we had some conditions. You know, the racetrack wasn't really up to par, but we knew that Steve Gibbs would do the job and make it the way it was last week.
No wheel stand.
No wheel stand this time. Racetrack's excellent.
They say first round is the toughest emotionally. Is that true for you?
Yes, your guts kind of go crazy, but once you get by first round, every racer out there thinks they have it won.
Okay, Shirley Muldowney, who has won this race 3 times more than anybody, goes back to the pit area with a win light here in round 1.
Steve, a very happy Shirley Muldowney as she may well be on her way to another Spring Nationals title. Meantime, we've had a chance to check on the David Pace Jim Bernard race, and as we watch in slow motion, we see Bernard's car cross the finish line first. But from another angle on our Diamond P Sports cameras, you see that Bernard crossed the finish line with his wheels in the air. David Pace broke the light beam, and he won the race. The light beam is the finish line. Our next pair of dragsters doing their long and smoky burnouts to heat the tires. This pairing finds Jody Smart, one of the rising new stars in Top Fuel racing from San Antonio, Texas, against Butch Osmond, now driving for Jim and Allison Lee of the Plains, Virginia. Smart is in the near lane, Butch Osmond in the far lane. The burnouts are over, and now the drivers begin their series of concentration on the Christmas tree. That electronic device that simultaneously will send both cars down the racetrack with a green light if they leave on time. Osmond against Smart. We're in the first round of Top Fuel racing at the Spring Nationals, and Butch Osmond with a bit of a hole shot. It looked like he got off the starting line just a little bit ahead of Jody Smart, and he played it to the win. 6.12 seconds is elapsed time. His speed over 229 miles an hour, and a big win for Butch Osmond. The weather beginning to threaten even worse as the NHRA officials picking up the pace. The next pair of cars fired and ready to run. Gary Beck, 2-time national champion, a former world champion. He'll be racing Rob Bruins, also a former world champion from Bremerton, Washington. Bruins, along with Gaines Markley, the car owner and crew chief, will be in the far lane. Gary Beck will be in the near lane as they approach the starting line. The electronic light beams across the starting line, very similar to those at the finish, set very low to the ground, and as you saw on our Diamond P Sports cameras, Jim Menard's car just going right over the light beam. But right now, all attention focused on the starting line as Gary Beck, driving for Larry Minor, trying to break out of his slump. He's against the former world champion, Rob Bruins. And Gary Beck pulls away to a victory. The crew quite pleased, knowing they got some work to do between rounds. But as we watch again, you see Gary Beck built up his lead right off the starting line, and he held it as Rob Bruins had difficulty keeping the car in a straight line. The more you deviate from that straight track, the longer it takes you to get to the finish line, and that's what's important. Gary Beck winning this race to advance to round number 2. Rob Bruins taking off his helmet, does not appear to be too dejected. He's headed over at a dead run to help out. Yes, it is Gary Beck helping him get his car off the racetrack. The crew keeping the pace on as the weather beginning to threaten more and more here at National Trail. We were rained out a week ago, and the sky is not looking good right now as Dennis Baca from Concord, California gets ready to go. He is a former national champion. He'll be racing against Johnny Abbott out of Denver, Colorado. Abbott, having been in this sport almost 2 decades, has yet to win his first national event title, and he wants it here. A strong burnout by Abbott. The burnout designed to heat up those tires that are about 18 inches wide. They use very little air pressure. Some problems over on Baca's car. You can hear it, and it comes to a halt. The motor dies after the burnout, and Dennis Baca is out of competition. Johnny Abbott headed back to the starting line under his own power, but some manpower being used here to move back Dennis Baca's 1,800-pound dragster. When that 2,000 horsepower dragster engine comes to a halt, you got to move it by the manpower. Johnny Abbott acknowledges his crewman's indication of a single run. He gets ready to go. Johnny Abbott out of Denver, Colorado with a big break here in round number 1. Abbott trying as he can against the tree and also down the track. He is going to make a hard run as the lane choice in the next round will be decided by the elapsed time of the previous round. He just notched a fine 6.01 seconds. That's the amount of time it takes to go from a standing start at the starting line, 1,320 feet to the finish line. And it's a slow run for Dennis Baca without power except by his truck to pull him off the track, and a tough break for a very tough competitor. Johnny Abbott taking off his helmet, checking over his engine, and removing the fire suit as he's got some work, but not that much to do before he's ready for round number 2. We're still in round number 1 action, and here is the reigning national champion from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, comes Terry Kapp, the wheeler dealer. It was just last Labor Day weekend that Terry Kapp won it all at the U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis. There's another man that's been in the winner's circle, Connie Kalita, the owner of a flying service, a racer on the weekend, and he thinks he's got troubles. He's calling for starter Buster Couch and his crew to come look at the engine to make sure everything is okay, as they had to shut off Kalita in qualifying several times, and Kalita wanted to make sure this time nothing was wrong. It is Connie Kalita against Terry Kapp. Kapp will be in the near lane. Kalita concentrating on that starting line device, the Christmas tree. He is in the far lane. Both drivers inching into the staging beams. It's a green light, and it's Terry Kapp off first. But Connie Kalita is right with him at the finish line by a car length. Terry Kapp with a fine 5.98 second elapsed time. His speed over 219 miles an hour. Terry Kapp, the reigning national champion, wins his first round race, and he's got a leg up to possibly this Spring Nationals title. running them faster than I've seen them in a long time. NHRA officials trying to beat the rain. This is the #1 qualifier, Billy Williams. He's from California, but he drives the Columbus, Ohio car of Jake Coughlin against Mark Oswald. From Wyoming, Ohio, the team of Oswald, Thomas, and Cattleman. They spent a lot of work this past winter getting this car as light as possible. So the 2,000 horsepower plus engine puts it down the racetrack, hopefully ahead of Billy Williams. Williams, having won everything possible in Pro Comp racing, that's the sportsman categories of drag racing, has advanced to Top Fuel, and Jake Coughlin's car had set a new track record in qualifying. He's off the line with Mark Oswald side by side, and something goes wrong. Mark Oswald with a freebie. He wins it on a big break, 6.14 seconds. His speed, 234 miles an hour. And as we watch again, you see Billy Williams. He makes a very nice move off the starting line, but could not hold on as something broke, and Mark Oswald wins.
Well, the #1 qualifier jinx seems to have struck again. Billy Williams breaking something at half track. Where were you when he broke?
I was about a half car length behind him, to tell you the truth. You know, I was glad to see it. Our car was shaking and spinning the tires a little bit, but other than that, it was all right.
So he just instantly disappeared, right?
Yeah, he just instantly fell back.
A big crowd on hand this second weekend here at National Trail. They're keeping one eye on the weather, which is worsening, and the other eye is concentrating on one of the two cars in this final pair. It is Jeb Allen from Long Beach, California, the professional racer that has established the lowest elapsed time in the history of drag racing. Jeb did it earlier this season under the watchful eyes of the Diamond P Sports cameras as he recorded a 5.62-second elapsed time at the Gator Nationals in Gainesville, Florida. Jeb in the thick of the chase for the World Championship. He is racing against Jim Head of Sunbury, Ohio. Head, having worked his way up to Top Fuel Eliminator, starting in Competition Eliminator a few seasons ago, now driving one of the fastest accelerating cars in the world. The burnouts are completed for both drivers, approaching the starting line under the eye of the starter. When both cars are ready and set, starter Buster Couch will throw the switch that gives them the green light. It's Jeb Allen off first, but something breaks, and it is Jim Head who gets an easy ride in this first round. Jim Head, 6.27 seconds. His speed, 229 miles an hour. And for the third race in a row, a free ride as the competition breaks. Jim Head turns off. We'll be back with funny car racing in just a moment.